Okay, so you are our first ever guest, Matt. No pressure at all. But so we spoke just before the record dropped, and I was talking about how you must be super confident with the album. Now it's out there, and public reaction has been what it's been. Has it been a pretty cool couple of weeks considering the extreme circumstance we find ourselves in?
Yeah, it's been insane. I mean, when we were first ever presented with, hey guys, because of the state of the world, do you want to push your record? It was a resounding, immediate, unanimous no. We do not want to push this record at all. We looked at it as a responsibility to get our record out to give people something to enjoy during these weird times. And we knew our fans would love it. We've always had our fans. You know, that's something that you and I have talked about a lot, that we've always had our fans, and that's why we go above and beyond. That's why I live stream every single day. That's why we do all these things, because we've always had that extreme dedication, devotion from our fans. But we've also discussed with how Trivium has really only ever been a press band on our second record in the UK, and that's pretty much it. And we've never really been like a band that other bands talk about. It's not because we don't get along with them. We get along with many other bands just fine, but that's just always been what we've accepted as Trivium's destiny and existence. But with this record, everything has shifted. Now, press loves it. They're saying it's the best record we've ever had. Other bands are talking about it. Our fans, obviously, we knew they'd love it. So it's a really great time, despite everything going on, to be around. And I can't wait to play this stuff live. This is going to be the least metal thing that anyone is ever going to say on this channel, but it's okay because I like to do juxtapositions. We were watching the Lover Live from Paris Taylor Swift performance, and I know my manager Justin's like, damn it, Matt, why are you talking about this? But even just seeing like a live crowd, because my kids love that record, even just seeing a live crowd, I started getting like feeling weird, like kind of getting adrenaline, but getting choked up and getting sad. And like, it's the first time I've seen like video of that in a little while. I don't know where I was going with that, but to not be able to do that right now is very weird. So I look forward to being able to do that. I don't know when that is. I don't know what that's going to look like, but at least we're able to get the record out. At least we're still trying to put together ways that we can show people Trivium despite these bizarre times.
Yeah, something that's super interesting to me is when your album comes out, with what you do on Twitch and your interactions with people, it's almost as if like your album then has some sort of DLC content where your Twitch almost acts as something like that. When you drop an album now, is there like an avalanche of things that come with it outside of just the record? It's almost like the record has a new lease of life now via those kind of channels.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We were trying to figure out why, and I don't really have the answer for this, but we're 9 records in, 21 years into the band that I've been in, and the excitement for this band feels as if we're like this cool, brand new, exciting band. We feel more modern than ever after being around for 21 years, which almost doesn't make sense. That almost seems like the kind of thing that doesn't happen often. I don't know if it's because of how plugged in we are. I can say that, you know, we had to cancel an Asian tour. We had to cancel a 2-week press tour in Europe. I have done more press for this record than I think every single other record combined into one cycle, which is nuts. Like, I think right now during these Corona times, people are either incredibly bored with not knowing what to do, and that's why I'm trying to give content through Trivium, through what I do through Twitch, or they're the busiest than they've ever been. I just finished recording a top secret video game thing that I can't talk about, jumping into one interview to another interview to this. It's amazing. It's amazing that people want to talk to us, and I'm very happy that people want to hear what we have to say right now. We've been essentially doing press since the month before this record came out, and now essentially the month after, and we still have all these other amazing things planned that we're going to do. So I don't know. It's weird. It's like a double-edged sword. We're not able to play shows, but all these other things we're able to do.
What do you put that down to? Like, it's interesting to hear your take. Like, there is no way that you don't have at least an inkling of a why has it been this time? Like, you've mentioned, like, it feels like all of these things that might have been in place at various times, like, at one point the press might have been into something, the fans were less into it, or vice versa. Like, it's kind of flipped around a whole bunch. Like, what do you put that down to, and why now?
I mean, if we want to look at it of Trivium, it definitely is for the fact that we made I'd say one of the greatest records we've ever made in our history. I mean, that's probably definitely a part of it. I think maybe it's a little bit of how connected we are, because like I do authentically love being that connected. I've talked to, I've been teaching a lot of band guys about what Twitch is, how to do it, what the ethos is, down to like the exacts, like the software, the hardware, what you need. And I guess sometimes band guys are like, that's a little bit too much for me, and they go the other way. Some of the ones want to jump in. I mean, I authentically love it. I've always just felt this need and want to give our fans everything, because they've always given us everything. So I think that's just been an extension of me, and having the 3 years of that, maybe it's a little bit of that, but it's also our band is in the best headspace we've ever been. We're the best at what we do than ever. I can confidently say, and I don't mean this to sound cocky, but at least for the sense of me, I am the best singer, screamer, guitar player that I have ever been. And I can say that we are the best band we have ever been. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's the fact that all these years are having all these different divisive moments of our band, of 8 different records that sounded completely different from the previous, collecting and losing different fans as each one went, and everyone's now unified with this one. Maybe it's a bit of that. I don't know. I'd like to know your perspective, because I think that you'll be able to see it better than I can even.
Totally. I think, like, I'll tell you, but honestly, from the press's side, I think there's always been an enormous amount of goodwill towards Trivium, because you were teenagers when you came through. Do you know what I mean? We've known you for that amount of time, so there's always a certain amount of goodwill. And when momentum is on your side, like I read an interview you did with Metal Hammer where you were talking about you create the best stuff that you create when you're happy. So I kind of wondered what got you to, when was that moment came? Was there a breakthrough of happiness that came that really stands out in recent years?
I mean, it's definitely having our lineup sorted. I know every time we've ever, quote, changed a drummer, it's become a meme. Well, I like that it's a meme and not something that's serious. We've only had 4 studio drummers. But finally having this proper lineup with 4 guys of the same, everyone only sees the stuff that they see. The Trivium from stage, the stuff that they hear, Trivium from record. They make up their own idea of what the dynamic of a band is within their own head, but they don't see what's going on behind closed doors. And we finally do have a lineup where the 4 of us are all of the same correct mind space that we need everyone to be, and the correct caliber of musician that we need them to be. So I think that has been really liberating to not have to worry about that. And that's the stuff that, like, I won't even really delve into what those other additional woes and worries were, but to finally have 4 guys that can pull off anything the band needs to pull off. Everything's natural, everything's organic, everything is not pre-planned. We made this record, we didn't think, we want a song that does this, we want a fast song, a slow song, we need to fill this quota, this song should be long. We said I don't remember us setting any rules other than let's make 9 songs. That's all we said. We didn't say, let's have a this song or a that song. Everything just happened naturally without us even having to speak. I think that says a lot to the components of the band, that we are all for one and one for all, and that all of us speak the same language without ever having to even speak it. We speak it musically. So I think the fact that it's effortless now, whereas the 3 records, my 3 least favorite of our discography, The Crusade, Vengeance Falls, and Silence, while I am very proud of some of the songs off those records, those were 3 times in our history where we said, let's stay in this lane, let's not go over here, let's not go over there. The latter 2 of which we allowed, because we wanted to, a producer to steer the ship. And those are all ingredients that we recognize aren't us. And what Trivium needs to be is a band that has no rules. We can't say we shouldn't do this on a record. We can't say we shouldn't have this on a record. We also are not meant to be led by anyone other than the 4 of us. So recognizing those things and knowing those things, and I need to constantly remind myself of those things, and you as well, of a friend, you being a friend of mine, if I ever say something weird, like, all right, we're dropping double bass, or I'm stopping screaming again, you need to call me out, and you need to text me, like, dude, you told me to make a promise with you, you can't do that. And I've told 2 people that in my life now. The only 2 people I've told, if I do this again, tell me. But I also think it's cool that we did that, and I'm surprised that we were able to survive through 8 records that were completely different. With those ups and downs, we've upset some lifers, but we've also brought in some new people. We've also shown that we don't want to do the same thing every time. And Dead Men is very different from Sin. And sometimes they'll try to say, oh, these last 2 records are similar, but the only thing they're similar in is that they are reflections of everything that came before. Whereas Dead Men, it kind of engulfs and encapsulates everything that records 1 through 8 on one record. And I imagine 10. Damn, we're on record 10. So with 10, we won't set any rules. We'll just be like, let's make songs. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if people like it or people dislike it. All that matters is that we like it.
Tell me if I'm kind of getting my psychiatrist on a little bit here. But, like, it feels like possibly confidence plays a big part in this. Like, when you've got a solid lineup and you've got a vibe between you, you don't have to put restrictions on yourself, and you don't have to look to someone else when you fully trust each other. Am I reading too much into it, or is there a bit of an element of that?
That's definitely correct, because I mean, a huge thing of me is I'm a very high anxiety person. I know I don't. Maybe I seem like it. Maybe I don't. I'm not really sure. But what I recognized quells that is staying incredibly busy, and the other thing is being so overly practiced in everything I do. I don't like to do anything in front of anyone if I haven't done it an obsessive amount of times. So thanks to three ingredients: blowing my voice out and having to retrain it and relearn how to sing. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which showed me what it is to instill that regimentation onto something in life. And Twitch streaming, with having that schedule that I am not playing games, I'm playing music 75 to 90% of the time to people. Those three things have made me a better singer, screamer than I've ever been. So now when I go on tour, it's not a matter of me getting in shape before going on tour. It's not a matter of me getting in shape before doing a record. I treat it like, I imagine, the way an athlete does. And I spoke to Baron Corbin about this, and he agreed that that is the way an athlete does it. You're year-round in shape. You are constantly in shape. You're never taking those cycles of, I've made it. And you've seen musicians like this. I've seen musicians like this. I might have been a musician like this. You put out a record or two, you're signed. I don't need to practice anymore. I've made it. I've met so many bands younger than me that don't warm up before they play on shows. Sure, some don't need to. But some don't need to and sound good, and some don't need to and absolutely need to. And for me, that's why I'm singing 2 to 4 to 5 hours, 5 days a week off tour when there's no tour in sight, to just stay constantly. Whether I have to go on tour tomorrow or make a record tomorrow, I am in shape to do that. And having that confidence in knowing that you're not going to worry is a big thing. I had one musician once say to me, they're like, well, isn't that incredibly not punk rock? Isn't that incredibly not rock and roll that you practice that much and there's all these methods and these reasonings and the mechanical components of knowing how to sing? Isn't that not punk rock and roll? I said, actually, I would disagree, and I would say that it's the most punk rock and roll thing in the world. To be this rehearsed when I'm off tour, put in the time that no one has to see. When I walk out on stage, I don't have to think about anything. I don't have to think, am I going to hit that high note? Is my screaming going to work? Do I know this guitar part? Is my arm going to give out? I don't have to think about anything. I just go up, and at that point, it becomes muscle memory and reflex. And that's what happened at Download 2005. All the hours that we've ever put in up until that point, we should have been terrible that day. I was hungover. My voice sounded like crap. Our guitars weren't in tune. I wasn't warmed up. It was freezing cold. We thought no one was there. Then everyone popped up. We went into such an extreme adrenaline dump, I don't remember playing the show. But thankfully, all those, quote, 10,000 hours or whatever it may have been that we put into put that survival mode to happen. And so now I try to treat everything in life the same way. That's also a fundamental learn from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that when you're thinking in Jiu-Jitsu in the first 1 to 5 to 6 years, and you're thinking when you're grappling is when you're steps behind your opponent. Because your opponent or your partner, they don't have to think about it because they've done it so much that it becomes muscle memory. They know exactly, their body knows what to do before their brain has to think about it. And that's how I try to make everything that I do. And I believe that that's how everyone in my band does it. So having that confidence and knowing within myself that I'm prepared, and then to know that the other 3 guys in my band are that prepared as well, it makes us feel unstoppable. So it's the same kind of confidence that we would have had in the beginning, but it's shifted. It's more mature, and it's backed up by something. We know exactly what we're capable of because we put the work to stay in that place.
And does it get, I mean, it must be a nightmare now when it comes to picking set lists. You're 9 albums deep. I know how much you loved the last record as well as this, as well as having a canon now. Like, have you started thinking about, and as someone who like meticulously says, I have to have this rehearsed and the rest of it, does that affect set list choices? I always remember there was like a Metallica story that was like, Jason Newsted was from the Matt Heafy style of thought of like, no, like anything we're going to play, we have to know inside out, backwards, front to back. Does that kind of thing affect the set list, and how does a set list get picked in 2020?
I mean, now with having 9 records, we're always going to bum somebody out, guaranteed. Like, there's going to be a portion of the audience that's always upset that we missed something, which is fine. But that's why, like, I'm so fortunate that I have my stream, because I don't treat it like a show. I'm not in there, like, rocking out, because it doesn't make sense for the context of what it is. But I now know Ember, Ascendancy, Waves, Shogun, Sin, and Dead Men perfectly. Those 6 records I have 100% down every single song. which I didn't have before. Before it would be, I'd have the set list ready, I'd have a couple old songs ready to go, but that's really it. But now having those 6 ready and at least a quarter to half of the other 3 as well, that's the key. So we usually like to discuss set list way early. Like, we had the Asia set list set up, so we would have all learned that in and out and perfectly. And if we ever do want to do the thing where we improvisation throw in a couple songs for fun, those are songs that we have rehearsed as well. And luckily, everyone in my band has that same attitude. We all like to have things incredibly prepared. Before my wedding with my wife, with Ashley, the thing I was most stressed out about was dancing in front of people. Like, I remember us getting in like an argument. I was getting just like so stressed out. I was like, I can't dance in front of people. She's like, you can. Like, what are you talking about? No one cares. It's like, no, I can't do it. I ended up doing it. I was very nervous. I looked stupid. But it's because, like I said, I have to practice something I'm going to do an incessant amount of times before I'm ready to do it. Like with Trivium shows, I'm sure when we come back into it, we'll have that kind of peak, kind of higher adrenaline normals because it's been a while. But once we're in touring form, it's just fun. It's not, I don't feel the peaks and valleys of nerves and adrenaline. But when I was doing acoustic shows before, and I only ever done 1 or 2 of them, before those I was a mess. Not puking or anything, but just shaking, nervous, anxious, anxiety-ridden. When I did my first Fortnite competition on stream, Fortnite Rivals, I was shaking. And then I did one in person at the Full Sail esports arena where I actually competed. I was shaking. So if it's something that I haven't done a lot, I get that adrenaline dump. But the first time I ever competed in jiu-jitsu, I remember slapping hands with my opponent, adrenaline dump, blacked out. And when I came to from the blackout, my opponent was strangling me. He was 12-0, and my face was turning purple. So it's like it was the same thing. And I did not put enough of those muscle memory hours to know what to do when all that happened. So I got my ass kicked. But I kind of do well from that. I do well in putting myself into the fire, getting my ass kicked brutally, publicly, and then coming out and recognizing what I did wrong. And I think I do best from that.
So two questions here. First up, what was first dance at your wedding? What was the song?
Saturday Night by the Misfits.
Oh, nice!
Yeah,
Nice!
Yeah. Perfect song. But I dance like crap to it.
And the second thing is, what is the song that you are most nervous about bumping from the set list? Like, what is the one that stands out that you're like, I don't think there's space for it anymore? But anything that you're particularly nervous about dropping?
I guess we've had to do that a lot. We like Flies has disappeared for a little while, Martyr has disappeared for a little while, Gunshot, but those kind of like rotating with each other. If any one of my bandmates ever said In Waves had to go, I'd say we can't. Like, we can never lose that song. Which one would I be bummed out for having to go? I don't know, Down from the Sky can never not be in a set. I know it's more like which ones are becoming more apparent that can really never go.
Right.
Like, there always has to be an Ascendancy single. There always has to be a Shogun single. There always has to be an In Waves single, which is cool. Like, we're kind of not comparing ourselves to them. We're not as great as them, but we're treading into that Maiden territory where people are like, I need to hear at least a song from this record because I love this record. I think that's a really cool, exciting, fun thing. Same like Metallica, and that's why I like that every record has been so different. I think that people, I don't think you and I forget, but I think people as a whole maybe forget. Every Metallica record is vastly different than the previous. Or if you can grab 2 randomly from their catalog and put them up against each other. I mean, Load is incredible. I know that's a controversial take perhaps, but I think Load is absolutely incredible, and it's nothing like Ride the Lightning, and Ride the Lightning is also incredible. And it's cool that you can see, like, all these records are so different. I mean, Kill 'Em All Through, Load were incredibly different. Load and Reload are of the same world, but then when they did S&M and Garage, those were so different than those. So I think it's really fun and exciting when that happens.
And you were due to go out with Megadeth, right? And like I've seen you play with Maiden and those kind of things. What are the pros and cons to doing those kind of major gigs? Like there is no con to a tour that is Megadeth, Lamb of God, and Trivium for where I sit. Like, but what are the things that you really get jazzed about getting to do shows with those enormous names, like that wrote the book?
I feel like it's easier than it used to be. I remember always hearing stories about like the 90s or like the kind of late 90s. If you went out and opened up for Slayer, your band would get bottled all the time. If you went and opened up for Metallica or a heavy band, you just get trashed. Now things are a lot nicer.
Maiden, man. I watched the Murder Dolls get eaten in Europe.
See, we're on the tail end of that. Now I see like a lot of like pretty light bands going out supporting Maiden and not getting crushed. So I think we were the last band of that that realm. Because when we went out with Maiden, I think the first show was Cardiff, Wales, that we played in the UK with Maiden. And I made sure the first thing I said to the crowd was, it's good to be home. Because I knew that was going to be a hot take. So we started getting bottles thrown at us, and I just smiled, laughing. Like, I did something kind of like young, cocky Matt Heafy version, but it ended up winning the crowd over. So we had been conditioned by that fire. I mean, when we co-headlined the UK with Slayer, it was Trivium and Slayer, Mastodon and Amon Amarth. I mean, that's one of the sickest bills I ever heard of in my life. We went out there in Manchester, I remember, and I said, how are you all doing tonight? And I hear 50-50 boos, cheers. I was like, okay. I was like, everybody that fucking hates Trivium make some noise right now. Half the crowd booing as loud as they can. And I said, I even got you to make noise for us. And then by the end of the show, we had about 95% of the crowd into us. So we have been conditioned by that fire that I spoke of that first jiu-jitsu competition, that that kind of failing publicly, that the crusade to the UK, that kind of thing. We've survived those moments, so we're really, really good at that now. We're really I love going on festivals, playing. Like the first time we ever played Big Day Out, we were the only metal band on it, and I loved that. I love being I love having to go into it swinging, which I think is very fun. I don't like to do many things like that. I don't want to do jiu-jitsu like that. I don't want to do gaming like that. But with Trivium, because of those hours put in like a friendly competition way, I like that. I like adversity when I can play music live to it to be my weapon.
So just a couple of things left before we let you go. The artwork on the record, and we've spoken previously about the concept of Trivium artwork. It really started to kind of tie together with Shogun, really came into its own within Waves. How did you come up with the concept for What the Dead Men Say, and how would you describe the packaging and vibe outside of the music for the record?
Just like you said, it's around that time that we really started nailing Trivium visuals. We never really... Our videos were cool, but we never really nailed the videos till in Waves. We never really nailed the live performance, the documentary till in Waves, or the artwork started coming together. Shogun in Waves, we truly nailed it. We've always felt that visuals are as important as music, and my biggest influence for music videos has always been Rammstein. I've always felt Rammstein has had the best music videos of any band on the planet, and I've always loved the way they present their videos. They make them like mini worlds. My biggest inspiration for making auditory art has always been visual art. I've always loved visual art, whether photography, film, video games, books, museums, whatever it may be. I've always loved to be able to see these things since I can't make visual art. I think a lot of bands would benefit from having an art director, and we just happen to luck out that my wife is our art director, and she's been essentially doing that and helping lend opinions and advice. I remember even since the Crusade, she would kind of help us out a little bit here and there, but started coming more into the fold after In Waves. In Waves is where my best friend John Paul Douglas, who's a visual artist. He did all the videos and the photos and the artwork for the record, and I was very inspired by his art, and he got me into film guys like David Lynch and Lars von Trier and Nicholas Winding Refn, and I started wanting to approach what we do with Trivium and finding our own worlds. It's that rebellion sense that we used to do, that I did musically to us. I said, all right, Ascendancy did really well. Let's make the opposite with the Crusade. It's still doing the rebelling things, but against the right things. So we said on In Waves, what's the opposite of a live DVD? A live DVD with no crowd. So we made the Chapman Live thing. We made a live DVD with no crowd in it. We said, what's the opposite of a normal band documentary? Let's have a documentary with no color. We weren't the first people to do any of these, specific these ideas, but we felt like there wasn't really anyone else doing that. So with Ashley being our art director and really, in charge of the helm, she is all about, if you can't, because I feel like there are times where even myself, all of us in the world, or other bands even, they have this idea of the vision. They may not be the qualified person to pull it off, but they try it anyway, and it kind of falls a little bit short. So her attitude's always, if there's someone that's a master of something, have that person do it. So we weren't sure if she was going to do the cover or not. We weren't sure who was going to do the cover. When we did our band photos, she found this incredible local artist named Mike Dunn who did our photos. He'd never done a metal band's photos. And she saw this little flower in the bottom of one of my photos. She said, Mike, can you test that? I have an idea for a cover. And she kind of gave some ideas. And he did 1,000 test shots and ended up just a cover coming out of there. So it's really finding experts of the scene. Mike Dunn being our photographer and our cover art guy, Ryan Macfall, this incredible British videographer who I've always been a fan of, who later when I found out he was at our show at Download 2005, that made it even make more sense. I always want to work with people that want to work with us. Not necessarily, they don't have to be fans necessarily. If they are, that's cool, but I want them to want to know where we come from, get it. So with Josh Wilbur, he knows where we come from. He knows what we're meant to be. So it's getting the experts that can do it. Michael Ulrich doing our artwork and Ryan Macfall doing the videos, and just getting the people that we're fans of their art and having them incorporate it with us versus us trying to do something like them. We actually get the people that are best at it to do it with us.
And just finally then, I guess, is there anything that you've got coming up that you want to tell everyone about?
Everything we have cooking right now are all top secret, even for then. But expect to, I've been making the joke, you can't escape me and you can't escape Trivium. Just expect more of that theme to be in everything, which is very cool. It's a cool time for us that I remember coming up and saying how it was difficult not having press and not having other bands into us during those weird Rocky years. What we found now is in the world of video games and video game streaming, all these game developers are huge Trivium fans. The people at Overwatch, my favorite video game of all time, they're all Trivium fans, and the lead character designers are Trivium fan. And people at different video games want to approach us, or people at orgs of, team orgs that I'm fans of, like FaZe Clan, Temper. He's one of the owners of FaZe Clan. He grew up listening to Trivium. He sang some guest vocals on our last record. So it's finding these interesting crossovers. Or, my favorite streamer, one of my favorite streamers in the world, Shroud, his favorite band's Trivium. And I was able to write his theme song that riffs of that became What the Dead Men Say. So it's just all of these random, non-planned out things that have been organically happening. And I think that's the best. This system of controlled chaos, I guess, is what Trivium is putting all the prep work and all the mechanical practicing into what we do, into allowing improvisation to happen. Because improvisation technically is something that shouldn't be something that's liked by a person who has planned out as regimented as I am. But I put all the planning in, so when that happens, that can become, we could trap that lightning in a bottle.
Mate, thanks so much for your time today, and thanks so much for doing that song with Bleed From Within. Like, that band are so good, and they're so underappreciated. It was, how did that come about, just before we say goodbye?
I mean, I've always been a fan of theirs, and I found out they liked our band too. I had no idea that they were into our band. They came out to a show in Luxembourg. We got to hang out with the guys and finally meet them, and I was like, hey, I love your band. And then Laz from While She Sleeps had to step out. So, then we had 1/5 of Bleed From Within with 1/5 of While She Sleeps. So us being big fans of the British scene, like I've always felt like we're an adopted British band. I don't know if British bands feel that. I don't know if it's okay for me to say that, but I think that's kind of right. It's like a lot of these dudes, I remember like Austin and Griffin from Shapes and As Lions, they said some of their first shows ever were Trivium shows, and that's crazy to me. So it's amazing when I found out the Bleed From Within guys dug Trivium, and I hit them up. I don't remember who was first. I think I might have said something cheeky like, hey, if you guys ever need a guest, do something. I love your band. And then they hit me up and said, lo and behold, we would love you to do a little bit of singing. Or, sorry, a little bit of solos on here. I want to do singing too, but there wasn't space. Maybe next record.
Next record.
Yeah, next record.
Matt, we'll see you when you're on the road, mate. Take care.
Thank you so much. Congratulations on the show, man. Congrats.
Thanks so much, man. Cheers.
All right,
see you in a bit.